proceed by asking Commissioner Goddard to do the invocation and Commissioner Harvey to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise if you can.
Please bow your heads if you would. Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to be here today, and my personal thanks for allowing us to live here in Putnam County, Lord. We don't realize sometimes what a wonderful, wonderful gift you have given us, Lord. I just ask that you help us as we make these decisions, as we go through these things, and we just be the shining light for the rest of the counties around us, Lord. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Goddard and Commissioner Harvey. We're going to move into public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. The public is encouraged to watch on YouTube Live or by sending an email in advance, if they'd like, of the meeting to BOCC meetings comments at putnam-fl.com. Please include your name, address, and phone number with the email. Okay, and we're going to start with public comment to the people that are here this morning. And the first one that I'm going to ask to come forward is George Cunningham. Yes. Yes, the normal time limit for comments is 3 minutes, and it will be timed. And so when we would appreciate it when the alarm goes off, because we have quite a few comments this morning, if you would try to start wrapping it up at that time if you're not done. And if you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
George Cunningham, 370 Songbird Road, Orlando, Florida.
Please.
I'd like to speak this morning on the matter of the Confederate Memorial on the courthouse grounds as well as the oak tree. I guess my question is, how is this even happening? I'd like to share something with the commission here. In 1906, our Congress passed the Honor Our Fallen Ancestors, PL 38, Chapter 631 through 34, Statute 56. This act authorized the furnishing of headstones for the graves of Confederates who died primarily in Union prison camps and were buried in federal cemeteries. Remarks. This act formally reaffirms Confederate soldiers as military combatants with legal standing. It granted recognition to deceased Confederate soldiers commensurate with the status of deceased Union soldiers. U.S. Public Law 810, approved by 17th Congress, 26 February 1929. Currently on the books is 38 U.S. Code Section 2306. This law passed by the U.S. Congress authorized the Secretary of War to erect headstones over the graves of soldiers who served in the Confederate Army and to direct him to preserve in the record of the War Department the names and places of burial of all soldiers for whom such headstones had been erected. This was again reaffirmed in 1957 when Congress passed a bill authorizing payment to Confederate soldiers. By that time, of course, it was pretty much a hollow gesture. The last Confederate veteran died in 1958. U.S. Congress has declared that they are equal with U.S. veterans. I myself served in the U.S. Army and the Florida Army National Guard right here in Palatka Alpha Battery. And I can tell you right now, as a veteran, I will not stand for that monument to come down. But I have a counter proposal for y'all. And I know that this is not a city matter, but I have even run it past Terrell Hill, our mayor, on Facebook. And he has refused to reply to it. Instead of tearing down our history, how about the other side do something to celebrate their history? There's plenty of room on that courthouse grounds. I have been all over Putnam County documenting and photographing graves of Confederate soldiers to put on findagrave.com so their descendants can find their resting place. In that search, I have seen plenty of graves right here in this county for soldiers who died fighting in the USCT. At that time, that was U.S. colored troops. There were black troops formed by the Union Army from 1863 to 1865. I don't think anybody here would oppose that. Hell, I would contribute to it. If they're entitled to their history and heritage, so are we. And while again, like I said, I know this isn't a city matter, I'd like to say right here and now, if Terrell Hill wants to make this a dogfight, I'm his man. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham, and thank you for your service, sir. I think we're having some problems with the audio. Are y'all getting him after you turned it on? Yeah, they're getting him now, I think.
Let me know when my lips turn blue.
Are you shaking your head yes, Jacob?
Oh, it's freezing.
Okay, thank you. Hard to tell that far back. Okay, the next person on our list to speak is Allegra Kitchens.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. Sorry I had to take off my mask, but it's fogging up my glasses. I'm speaking here against the removal of the Confederate Monument and the oak tree. The only reason the oak tree is being asked to be removed is because it belongs to a certain family. It's a certain species. It's a certain race, as you may have it, of trees. The people who are protesting the removal, the tree be removed, are saying that oak trees represent where a certain race, i.e. the black people mostly, were lynched from oak trees, so because a race was targeted and biased by people and hung from oak trees in some places, most all trees hung black folks, they are racially biased against the oak tree by asking you to remove it. That oak tree did nothing. Nobody's ever been hung from it. No oak tree on that courthouse lawn has ever had anybody hung from it. And I might quote to you U.S. Code 36 U.S. Code 305, National Tree. The tree, genus Quercus, commonly known as the oak tree, is the national tree of the United States, December the 8th, 2004, and it was signed by the president at that time. That's a national tree of the United States, and removing that tree would be the same thing as killing a bald eagle, which is a symbol of this country. Perhaps that's why they want the tree removed, because it's a symbol of the country. The oak tree has always represented survival, perseverance, and strength. As to the Confederate Monument, that monument is a memorial to the men and boys who died from Putnam County fighting for their country, their state, and their county. They did not consider it fighting against the United States in particular. They were fighting for their homes. That monument, I looked at it 2 days ago to refresh my memory. It does not say this is a monument to honor slavery or the Confederacy or oppression of black people. This monument honors the men and boys who died from this county in the Civil War. They just happened to be fighting from the South. Mr. Cunningham is right. Congress restored Confederate soldiers to the same rights as all military in the United States. Based on that, if you remove that memorial to the Confederate soldiers who died and now have equal status to all soldiers, you have to remove the memorial to the World War I soldiers, the World War II soldiers, the Korean War soldiers, and the Vietnam soldiers. There is no difference. That monument does not represent racism. It represents men who died for their country. I'm asking you to please do not have a knee-jerk reaction like the City Commission did and remove that oak tree. That oak tree, it's ridiculous. If they want oak trees removed, go to your own home and cut the oak trees down. But if they demand oak trees be cut down and they're a symbol of racial hatred, then every oak tree in the city of Palatka has to be cut down, doesn't it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kitchens. The next speaker I'm going to call forward is Robert Sanders, Jr. Mr. Sanders, if you'd state your name for the record, please, and address.
Yes, I'm Robert Sanders, Jr. I live at 905 South 12th Street, Palatka. I've been a resident here since last 3 years, moved from Ohio. I'm here to defend the people that died in those 4 years, from 1861 to 65, defending their properties and their possessions. There's 620,000 people gave their lives up for our freedom today, and I'm here to support them continuing on in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. The next person I'd like to ask to come forward is Claudia Wilkinson. Claudia, if you'd give him just a minute, he's trying to sanitize in between. Thank you. Please come forward. If you'd give us your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Claudia Wilkinson. I'm from 155 Cassie Drive, which is Palatka, but it is in Boswick. I am retired from Putnam County I worked at the Boswick Library as manager, and just from that, books are important. You know books are important. History, we need to keep our history. I have a petition here. It's not from a group other than citizens of Putnam County. I'm going to read it to you. Save the Confederate statue and the oak trees. We, the citizens of Putnam County, petition the county to agree that we should save our Confederate statues and our oak trees at the Putnam County Courthouse. Quotes from Sari, "There is no future without a past." Quote from Pearl Buck, "If you want to understand today, you have to search yesterday." By signing this petition, you are telling the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that saving our statue and oak trees at the courthouse are very important to you and to our communities. I've got 86 that have signed. It was very difficult to sign with this weather and the conditions that are imposed at this time. I would also like to read something that is right here about leadership. The ultimate measure of leaders is not where they stand in moments of comfort.
Miss Wilkinson, would y'all hand her a microphone, please, where she can continue speaking over there, please, and they can pick her up for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Leadership. The ultimate measure of leaders is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy.
Thank you, and if you would give your petition, just lay it on that table right there, please, ma'am. Our next speaker that I'd like to ask to come forward would be Exum Barden. Exum, if you, yes, sir, you sure can. We're in between you doing it, we're trying to sanitize. Okay. If you would give it to him first and let him, he's gonna wipe it down if it's not gonna damage it. Will it damage it if he wipes them down, Exum?
No, y'all can keep, it's for y'all.
Okay.
Each one of you have one.
If you give them, yeah, you can bring them to us. We'll give them to you after, Debbie. Thank you, sir. Excellent. Once you get started, if you'd give your name and address for the record.
Okay.
By the way, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Terry. No, want to go to him. Exum Barden,
You can get a little closer.
Exum Barden, I live in East Palatka, 134 Kane Road. Anything else?
No, sir, that's it. Now you can start.
I'm not used to coming down here.
I know.
What I have here.
I didn't think I'd ever see a time where you didn't have words though, Exum.
But anyway, I'm down here, I'm for the Confederate Monument staying where it is, and the oak tree, there's been all kind of lies and innuendo about the mulberry tree down there, about people being strung up. This is a photograph of the last execution in Palatka. It happened in 1915, and this picture was taken and posted by the Palatka Daily News. And there's a write-up on the back of it about the man. He killed 2 people in Putnam County, and he was tried and convicted and hung, and it happened on the other side of Mellon High School, right there back at where the sheriff's station used to be, and they built a gallows right there, and they blocked out the windows on the school so none of the kids could see. But that oak tree has never had any lynchings. My family's been here a long time. They fought in the Civil War here with 1st Florida Cavalry and 2nd Florida Cavalry and Yelvington out here. That's my ancestors on my grandmother's side, and Barden out here was settled on my granddaddy's side. And all of them fought. The Bardens fought in the 26th North Carolina Infantry, and they fought for Southern independence. Slavery had an issue to it, but it wasn't that much. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which only affected the states that he didn't have control in. The 4 states up north that he had control in that were slave states, he could have freed them, but he didn't. The United States flag flew over slavery at the beginning of the war, through the war, and at the end of the war until the 13th Amendment, the United States flag flew over slavery. So I want to get set the record straight about this stuff. The South fought for Southern independence. Lincoln apprised them with opportunity to come back into the Union with about a 90-day leadway until the Emancipation Proclamation going into effect. So that should show if they wanted to keep the slaves, all they had to do was come back into the Union. And that should show that the Confederacy did not fight for slavery. Slavery was an issue, no doubt about it. But in Washington, what did they do? Lincoln do with the slaves in Washington, in District of Columbia? He bought them. He gave the people their compensation for their slaves in order for all of them to be free inside the District of Columbia. But if you fellas really want to get to the heart of this thing and get something down, don't do what Jacksonville just did. It go in there in the middle of the night like thieves, just like they took Jesus in the middle of the night. The Pharisees did. Put it up for a vote for the people. I think the people ought to vote on it. And they'll take it out of your hands and they'll put it in the vote of the people. And we'll go by the vote of the people, what they want.
Amen.
That's all I got to say. I'm a little upset about this, and I think it's a travesty that war monuments are being torn down. What's going to be next? They're never satisfied. You know, this happened in 1915. This came up again when this was reprinted. Was June the 11th, 1965, during the fight over the segregation of the school systems and stuff that was going on here. That's when this was reprinted. It came up then about the oak tree. And here we are 50-something years now down the road again, and here it is. And when's this thing going to stop?
Thank you, Exum.
All right, thank you very much, Chair.
Appreciate it, sir. The next person that I'm going to ask to come forward is Shelby Mcclellan. If you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
Shelby Mcclellan, 128 Buffalo Bluff Road, Palatka, Florida. Here I have a petition that I started recently. Of course, it's on Facebook, so I can't guarantee that every single person is in Putnam County, but I had them put in their zip code so I can assure you that most of the people here are from Putnam County. So far, when I printed this out, I had 2,549 signatures. As of this morning, I had 2,591 signatures, so it just keeps going up. Basically, this was to keep the Confederate Monument and Maltby Oak Tree right where it stands. I think the biggest issue with this is not only keeping it there, but let's say we do remove it. Then what's next? Is it going to stop there? Are they going to say that's enough? And my biggest concern here with it is we created a race divide over a tree and a monument that have been sitting there forever, and it's just now an issue. Are we going to sit here and say that if we remove it, that that's going to solve every race issue here in Palatka? It's not. There's a lot better productive things we could be doing, like coming together instead of tearing each other apart. Of course, I can sit here and argue it should stay. Someone's going to argue that it should go. But in all reality, it's about coming together. And I really just don't think taking it is going to solve it. You're just going to make one side mad. And in the end, I don't think everyone's going to be completely happy. So I just think we all need to come together on it. And obviously, 2,591 people agree with me on that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person I'm going to ask to come forward is Mary Townsend. Ms. Townsend, if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mary Townsend. I live at 123 Walton Road, East Palatka, Florida. And y'all need to look at the big picture here. Black Lives Matter put their foot in there to try to take the statue down and the tree down as a symbol. After that, they're going to try and defund the police, abolish the police. We will have our people take over that. And then, oh, you don't need to vote anymore because we have that covered. I just feel that the tree, it all starts with the tree and the statue. And I don't feel good about it. The tree did nothing. The statue symbolizes the deaf people it represents. And I'm not going to say any more. You just need to look at the big picture here.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Okay. When y'all come up to speak, the last few, could you get a little closer to the microphone? It should be sanitized. We're doing it in between each speaker for your protection. So if you would get a little they're having trouble picking you up on the audio for the meeting that's being live streamed at the moment. The next person I would like to ask to come forward is Judy Lucia. And if you would state your address and name for the record, please.
My name is Judy Lucia, 111 Redbud Drive, Interlaken, Florida. I'm a volunteer for Putnam County with the therapy dogs. And I'm so upset over these trees. I mean, why kill a living oak tree? Why take the Confederate flags down the monument? Why destroy it? Somebody was over there the other day destroying the monument, trying to burn the tree down. And now, Black Lives Matter has a flag underneath the United States of America. Is that right? No. I will not go for killing all the live oaks in Putnam County. I have them on my property, and I won't do it. Please listen to the people.
Thank you, Ms. Lucia. Thank you, Debbie. The next person I would like to ask to come forward is Dernisha Leonard.
Darnisha Leonard, 2102 Alice Street. So my name is Darnisha Leonard. I'm one of the organizers for Peace in the Streets, and I am requesting that the removal of the Confederate soldier statue and the Maltby oak tree be placed on the agenda for the next meeting on June 23rd, 2020. The tree looks to be on life support, as much of it has already been cut off. There are pillars being used to hold it up, and some of it looks to have sunken into the ground. Not only is it a safety hazard, the county will continue to pour money into it for saving it, rather than replacing it with a new tree. The Confederate soldier statue needs to be removed from in front of the courthouse and relocated to a museum where people can actually learn from it. It's intimidating as a member of the Black community to go to a courthouse to find justice with a Confederate soldier statue standing in front of it. Robert E. Lee himself opposed that these monuments be built because he knew they would be divisive for America. Many other states and cities have begun removing their Confederate monuments, and Putnam County needs to be doing the same. Just last night, Jacksonville removed the Confederate monument from Hemming Park, and these two items together cast a dark shadow over the place of justice, so we asked them to be removed. We have the support of many, including the support of both the sons and the sons of the Confederate veterans and the daughters of the Confederacy, who have also offered to fund its relocation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next person that I would like to ask come forward is Tavell Adams. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Tavell Adams, 2405 Fairway Drive, Palatka, Florida, 32177. Peace and blessings to all. My name is Tavell Adams. I am one of the organizers of the Peace in the Streets rally that united hundreds of people from different walks of life at the Putnam County Courthouse on Thursday. The rally was a success as it was peaceful from start to finish. Darnisha Leonard and I spoke on our stance about the Confederate Memorial Statue and the Maltby oak tree. Thousands concur with us in Putnam County. We have over 1,600 signatures of Putnam County citizens who are in favor of the Confederate Memorial Statue to be relocated from grounds where people go to seek justice to grounds where our citizens can learn from it. The attempts on the Southern Confederacy was to establish a new nation and protect slavery. Those attempts do not align with the ideals of the Putnam County Courthouse because it is a building where all groups of people go to seek justice. Therefore, it should be removed and relocated, as it carries a symbol of divisiveness. In Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy, many Confederate monuments have been taken down. If Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia, can announce that the state will remove the 21-foot-tall memorial of Confederate General Robert E. Lee from Richmond's historic Monument Avenue, why can't Palatka, Florida? The Maltby oak tree has been a safety hazard and has been decaying from field soil since 2005. To my knowledge, the county is paying more money to save the Maltby oak tree than to plant a new one. There is documented history that an effigy hung from one of the oak trees on the Putnam County Courthouse lawn labeled Old Man Gloom. The Maltby oak tree is often referred to as the hanging tree in the African American community here in Putnam County. I formally request that the removal of the Confederate Memorial Statue and the Maltby oak tree be put on the Putnam County Commissioner's agenda for a date of June 23rd, 2020, for a vote of the aforementioned remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. The next person I'd like to ask to come forward is Judy Adams.
My name is Judy Adams. I live in East Palatka, Florida. You can't erase history, and the attempt to try to do that is futile because it's always going to be there. If you're offended by something that you see that is a part of our history, you need to use that as a teachable moment.
Well, excuse me just a second. Yes, sir.
Address.
Could we get you to talk a little louder? They can't hear you in the booth.
They can't hear me where?
In the booth behind you, the audio booth back there. We're live streaming this to the internet.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't want me talking to them?
No, ma'am, talk to the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sorry.
Well,
Address us.
they need to hear this too, and I just was sort of, I'm used to public speaking, and I'm used to talking to the room. So it is a teachable moment. If you don't like what is going on with what you see, and it's a piece of our history, then you need to take that and say, I want this as a constant reminder to tell me that we don't want to go here again. We don't like what this represents, and we don't want it to ever happen again. That's one side's viewpoint. The other viewpoint is many of us revere this as what we believe, what we grew up to believe it was, that it is a memorial for people that gave up their life, went to war to fight their cause of the day. And you can't put today's values and standards on something that happened that many years ago. It just doesn't work. Learn from this. Use this as a time to recognize that we all have differences and have your opinion about what you think that represents. There's a cost factor involved in this, and I'm a little resentful that we're talking about the health of the tree all of a sudden here now. That's not the case at all. This is a racist issue, and it's been very clearly brought out. Black Lives Matter, very closely associated with Antifa. This opens up the door for a lot of different things going on. People boarded up their businesses last week because of the relationship with that. I'm offended. I'm offended. And our offense, I think there's a lot of other people in this room that are offended by this as well. Our offense counts as well. And I agree with the gentleman that discussed the fact that Jacksonville, we woke up this morning and found out that at 4:30 this morning, a statue was removed in Jacksonville. That's wrong. Removing these artifacts, removing these treasures are not going to solve anybody's problem. This is just one more attempt to try to bulldoze a mindset that is going to disappear after a while. The tree should stay. My Lord, the tree should stay. I just think that this is one of those times when we need to exercise the right to say no, and we need to do the right thing, leave our history intact. If you have this on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, I will be here and speak again. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I'd like to ask to come forward is Ed Killebrew. Ed, if you would put your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Ed Killebrew. My address is 146 Barden Estate Circle, Palaca, Florida. Believe it or not, I wasn't going to say anything. I just came to sit this morning. But as everything is, yeah, you thought that was funny, didn't you? You can't believe it, can you? What I've got to say probably is not going to be popular, but it's what I'm starting to believe. One thing that I truly believe in, and each one of y'all know this, is my country. I love my country. I love the people in my country. All colors, breeds, whatever. I love everybody. I love people, period. I'm starting to think that maybe a compromise needs to happen on our courthouse square. That all people be involved in it. I'm not talking about removing the Confederate statue, but maybe moving it to another part of the courthouse. You know, making it part of what's there. Again, that's probably not going to be popular with anybody. But you know, I read the Facebook post that the organizers put out, and in the beginning it said trees. It didn't say tree. It said trees. And I'm not trying to begin, you know, to do anything negative here. That by no means. I went by the courthouse square last, what was that, Thursday, when all the walls were put up around the courthouse, when everything was happening. and everybody was scared about what was going to go on. And I took some pictures just, for history's sake. And one of the pictures I looked at, I came through the parking lot on the side of the courthouse. And one of the pictures I looked at was, had the Maltby oak in there. And I looked across the top of it and I thought, that thing's ugly. It's ugly. But if we can compromise, I mean, we have put a lot of money into that Maltby oak. We're always talking about money being a problem in Putnam County. But, I mean, would it be simpler to take that tree down and leave the other trees? And when I say other trees, because the fact being, one culture thinks it's bad, and it shows them the bad sign of life, and they can't get past it. But when you go down there and you look at the courthouse square on any given day, the grounds are beautiful. The trees are full. During festivals and other things, there's people up underneath those trees. They're enjoying our public property. They're enjoying life, and the kids are running and going and enjoying the shade of those trees. So I just can't see splitting our community. I mean, I've came out of an age of hate and bigotry. Commissioner Harvey, we started school when all that started. You remember it, and most of y'all on this commission and employed by the county have been through it. I was raised in it. I mean, my grandfather, who was a Baptist minister, and I'm going to say this and make it public record, was the treasurer of a KKK group. It was nothing unusual as a child for that to come through. But as I was raised, my youngest child, who is 23, we were fighting at home right now because she's into all this that's going on. And it's causing strife and grief in the house. But I remember when my youngest child, she was in 5th grade, and we were coming home from elementary school one day, 5th grade now, and I felt like I had accomplished something in life. And I'm going to say something that will offend some of these in this group, in this right here. But my daughter leaned across. I was taking her home. She was reading a book about Theodore Roosevelt, and she put her finger on the book, and she said, "Daddy, what's this word?" I said, "Baby, I can't read it. We're riding down the road." So she shoves it over there in front of my face. Me riding down. It's worse than me Facebooking now, But she shoves it over there and looks at it. And I looked down at that thing, and it was the word nigger. And I thought, wow, my daughter's in 5th grade. She's never heard the word, didn't know what the word was, and then she's looking at me for meaning. So I felt like that we had come a long ways in life, and we still got a long ways to go. But I want to leave you with that word, compromise. I mean, there's got to be some compromise to move through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And the last card I have is Douglas Hayes. Doug, can you read?
No, it's facing you.
Oh, it's odd, it's facing you. It says, "Do not touch the microphone."
No, down, it's upside down.
Oh, okay.
Do not touch the paper that says, "Do not touch the microphone."
Douglas Hayes, 216 Huron Avenue, Satsuma, Florida. Candidate for County Commissioner. The word of the day is transparency. Tearing down trees and statues is not the solution. I personally have been profiled. Color is not the issue. If you demonstrate a behavior or an appearance, you are going to get profiled, and there may be protocol for either the surrounding safety of the officers or the other people. If our police departments had body cameras Now there's transparency both for the behavior of the person that's being questioned or looked at and the behavior of the police officer involved. It's amazing. There are studies that show that behaviors change. So then let's talk about money, because now you know that I'm a research and grant hound. Turns out that there is a manufacturer called WatchGuardVideo.com. They have a complete tutorial in grant funding, and it turns out that yearly the Department of Justice has grants, they're competitive grants, for body cams and cams for the dashboard. So we can't say it's all about money. And then the second thing in regards to money is that if we can afford to have video storage, because we're going to have to use cloud storage, we can build 3 servers and provide our own cloud. It's very cost effective. In fact, our computers, we're using NT 2000s, which is basically the Windows 98 modified. That we're slowly transitioning out those computers. And the Windows XP unit works really good for a cloud. It's a little slow, but you're just doing video storage. Spoke to experts other than myself that video storage is a safe and secure aspect where your written storage in a cloud, there is potential vulnerabilities. As to why, I don't know, but that's one of the things to look at is that we can do cloud storage for the video. The other thing is that if we can afford to use drones for surveillance and store that video, then I think we can afford to add a little extra room for body cams. That is a viable solution. Now, in regards to the tree aspect, got to look at your history. We didn't lynch people from trees around here. We actually built scaffolding. Take pride in that. That tree is over 300 years old. I feel that if anything, let's take the courthouse down because we've been preserving that tree because we feel bad because we've been destroying the environment. The statue, it was brought to my attention that we should not memorialize some of the history of the Confederacy and that we need to have statues of the Union Army. Well, it turns out in Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska, my great-grandfather has a statue, and he was a Union Army. So there are statues available as based on the history of the environment. And thirdly, we can use, I know, the time is up.
Okay, all right.
I had to suck it up, get my extra 5 cents. Anyway, we could also use this moment as a possibility, as a tourism aspect, is as compromised to relocate that. We do not have a natural history museum. And once again, there's grants available to establish one. And that way, it's now another high point for the traveler, especially the family that's on their way to Disney that takes Highway 17 to avoid the drive-by shootings in Jacksonville and on I-95 and the congestion. And they want to teach their kids some natural history. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Okay, that was my last speaker card. Oh, you have some? Would you bring them up, please?
No, I have 5
You
online
have 5
comments.
emails? Okay. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Would you go ahead and start reading them, please, Laura?
Yes, the first one's from Gavin Thomas, 643 Barden Road. Dear Board of County Commissioners, my name is Gavin Thomas. I am a Putnam County resident and have been my entire life. This is a letter I have never considered writing, for it is a letter I never thought I'd have to write. You see, I have spent the better part of my life working around the country with organizations such as the American Battlefield Trust, the Sons of Confederate Veterans, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, the Sons of Union Veterans, and the Blue-Gray Army, as well as multiple state agencies, including the National and State Park Service. Through my work, I've helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy back large portions of American battlefields, preserve original artifacts, and place historic markers and headstones across the country. Today, I want to address a monument that stands on the courthouse lawn, a monument that has recently caused concern for our community, the monument to the unknown Confederate soldier. I would like to point out, as previously stated, that I am in no way an advocate of removing monuments. However, if you see fit, I would like to discuss a plan to ease tensions in our community, a plan that would put us all on common ground. This plan is supported by the SCV and UDC, as well as supported by Palatka Mayor Terrell Hill. I am more than willing to discuss the plan in front of the board or individually. My only wish is to come to a peaceful resolution while at the same time preserving American history. Please feel free to return my email and/or call me directly. Yours sincerely, Gavin Thomas. The next one is from Diana Sullivan, 338 Crescent Lake Shore Drive. Dear Commissioners, please do not allow irrational pressures convince you to remove the magnificent 100-plus-year-old tree under the county stewardship. These old trees are priceless. Symbols of oppression exist everywhere for individuals. Allowing any oak tree to be destroyed because they were big trees with large branches and may have been used for lynchings will doom all of our legacy trees. It would make more sense to ban rope. If you give in to this demand, the resulting instant gratification will be short-lived and the next legacy oak will be on the chopping block. Thank you for listening, Diana Sullivan. The next is from Yvette Reyes, P.O. Box 253. Where are we with the Animal Services Building? Got two more. The next one is from Holly Gallagher, 137 Spring Lake Drive, Interlaken. Good morning. In light of recent events and the sheriff's budget proposal, I have a few questions. I am a teacher in Putnam County, and when we have quote-unquote lean years, we see cuts to various elements of the budget, specifically staff. Nothing was spoken about line items of his budget proposal. Each commissioner who spoke just said something along the lines of, quote, I know you would do everything in your power to keep the budget down, end quote. 1, where can the line items of his proposed budget be found? 2, do you all have that information? 3, why didn't a single commissioner ask about budget specifics? 4, what funding is being used for community outreach and prevention programs? Because adding more deputies to the beat is not community outreach and prevention. 5, what part of the budget is the sheriff's office using to quell reoffending behavior while individuals are incarcerated in our jail? I heard a lot of, quote, we understand, end quote, being spoken during the sheriff's budget proposal, but no meaty questions. Far too often we have representatives not asking real questions. This needs to change. Several board members mentioned crime being down, but yet we continue to have need of the same need in our sheriff's office. If the county begins to look at real ways to reduce the need to such a budget and force, because we have invested so much in the actual betterment of our citizens, we might be able to turn some tides and have real change happen in our county. Thank you, Holly Gallagher. And then the last one is Yvette Reyes, P.O. Box 253, Bostwick. My comment for today is, I am Hispanic American minority. Neither the tree nor the statue offend me because I see this as a learning experience and being proud of where Palatka is right now. I've been coming here for 37 years since my parents moved here, and I experienced racism from both sides while working at Head Start and speaking Spanish at Publix. I don't experience that anymore. The tree is ugly. I am not opposed to taking it down. The statue is another story. Taking it away isn't going to change anything.
Thank you for those comments. With that being said, we're going to move forward out of public comment, and we're going to but before we do, I'd like to say I appreciated everybody coming this morning and speaking to us about this. I know that in a couple of the presentations that we were asked to put it on the agenda for the next meeting. My recommendation would be to take it to the next regularly scheduled workshop, which is after the first meeting in July would be the next regularly scheduled open workshop. So that would be my suggestion. If I think that they have the right to ask that it go on whichever agenda that they would like for it to go on. So when you talk to them, Administrator Suggs, to place it on an agenda, would you please recommend that it go to the workshop, and if they refuse, then put it on the next board agenda, whichever.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to recess the Board of County Commissioners meeting, and I'm going to convene the Port Authority meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Is your thing on? Is your light on?
Yeah.
No, the other light. Okay. It's not working, Jacob.
I want to address a few things that were being said. I just wanted to wait till after everybody spoke. So, first of all, great job on the Peace in the Streets rally. I thought it was, I was really proud of Putnam County. I had a lot of different emotions going on, and people were asking me, are you going to attend? I said, no. What are you going to do? Nothing. I said, we're just going to sit back and pray that everything goes peacefully, and it did. I was really glad that we didn't have the showings that some of the larger cities had. I think Putnam County really did well. Personally, I think this should be decided by the taxpayers. I don't think that the five of us have the unilateral authority, or should have the unilateral authority, to do anything with the monument or the tree. And as far as speaking on the tree, last I knew, the last meeting we had regarding the Maltby Oak, I think we agreed that we spent our last $10,000 on that tree because it is on life support. And at some point, you've got to let go. I personally would think that if we could take a seedling from the tree and replant it, you get a new day, a new life, and a whole new beginning. But the tree is going to decide its own fate here sooner than later. Leadership takes courage. And the lady that stood up and quoted leadership over there is correct. This is one of our opportunities to have a really proud moment in Putnam County for the citizens, all of us, to come together and decide this. But I think that this really should be a decision made by the totality of the electorate, not by a few. So I've got a bunch of notes here, so I'll just kind of bounce around. But Miss Gallagher's comment about the budget for the Sheriff's Department. We actually have a workshop where we're going to be discussing the Sheriff's budget. At the presentation, we don't get a lot of information. Then we start digging in. But I would like to say that she hit a high note for me, which is the investment that we need to make as a public in our substance abuse and mental health issues that we have in Putnam County. We need brick and mortar care facilities here. We need to be able to get the folks that have issues with alcohol and substance abuse into rehabilitation. But part of the rehabilitation takes stabilized housing and jobs. And that's something that we don't have a lot of right now. So I'm not going to get on my soapbox, and I'm not running for county commission, so I'm just speaking from the heart here. But I really think that it would benefit the public for us to have a conversation about how we can start funding something that's more meaningful. And it doesn't need to come from the Sheriff's Department. They shouldn't be our first line of defense for somebody that's having a substance abuse issue. They've relapsed and they're having a problem. We really do need to get them care. Compromise. Mr. Killebrew hit the nail on the head. This is an awesome opportunity for us to compromise and really show what folks can do together when you come together. I'm going to share a little bit of my personal history real quick. I didn't grow up in the United States of America for very long. I turned 15 in boarding school. My father was a cryogenics engineer and worked for petroleum companies all over the world. So I've lived in the Far East, in Japan, in Puerto Rico, Saudi Arabia, and Libya. I've actually lived in North Africa. And I can tell you that I know what it's like to be discriminated against. I know what it's like to be a gringo living in Puerto Rico when you sit on the wrong swing and somebody's going to take it away from you real quick by force. But I don't let it stop me from having friends that are Puerto Ricans. I actually have a gentleman that works for me, has been working for me for a long time. I had 2 guys from Puerto Rico working for me. I love Puerto Ricans. I love the food. I love the culture. When I lived in Libya, my father told me, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. I assimilated. So I say that only to let you know that I know what it's like to be discriminated against. I know what it's like to wake up in the morning and know that if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, your father could not only lose his job, but be landed in jail in a Middle Eastern country. I'm a Christian. I make no bones about it. I wear a cross. That's a symbol of my faith. It's also a symbol of Christianity. Are we going to start tearing down crosses? Are we going to stop because we are offending people that don't believe in the Christian faith? And if we're going to take it that far, what about the Romans, the Italians that actually killed our Lord and Savior if you're a Christian? How far do we take this back? We learned from history. We will continue to learn. We've just hit another milestone with D-Day. Are we going to forget all the veterans who gave their lives on the landing of Normandy so we could all be living not under the regime of Hitler right now? I really think that we need to take a deep breath and follow the wisdom of Mr. Killebrew and reach for compromise, but not, by all means, not forget our history. This really needs to be a ballot initiative in my estimation. And with that, sir, I yield the floor.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Rawls. At this time, I'm going to recess the Board of County Commissioners meeting, and I'm going to convene the Port Authority meeting. Item 3A would be the approval of the minutes for the port as listed on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as listed on our agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda would be 3B, which is public comment on the Port Authority items. Do you have any blue cards on the Port Authority? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll move on to item 3C, which is general discussion. Are there any comments by commissioners on Port Authority items? Okay. Seeing none, I will adjourn the Port Authority meeting and reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting, and we'll move to the consent agenda. Are there any commissioners wishing to pull items off the consent agenda? Commissioner Pickens?
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, sir.
I have none. Commissioner Goddard?
I have none.
Commissioner Rawls?
I have none.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, seeing that, I move to approve the consent agenda items A through J.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Next is the clerk of court comments. Mr. Downs, do you have any comments today on behalf of our clerk of court?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda are appointments. I'm going to start by reappointing Marshall Fulgram to the Fair Board. His term is up at the end of this month. I wasn't sure, did we, as a commission, I'm asking the commissioners this question, didn't we say that as a new member of a board, you still had to fill out an application, but as an existing member, you didn't? Wasn't that the last thing we did?
Right.
Okay, well, he's an existing member of the Fair Board, so.
I don't think it would hurt if they filled it out, just so we would have it for the record, but because the
We
main, the
all-
main thing we're looking for is that they're a registered voter. That's the biggest thing that we have.
And they
Or-
live in the
or
county.
if we just put
Right,
this
but
file
if
that
they're
we
already
verified.
on a board, then they're usually already been vetted to that,
Yeah.
that,
Stick
so.
some of the file that says we vetted it and we know that we
Yeah.
verified his voter registration.
Okay, so my next question would be, I think that is a District 3 appointment, Marshall Fulgram. Can you look right quick, because if it's an at-large, I'm gonna need a vote. My apologies for not getting her to do this ahead of the meeting.
Okay.
He is District 3, okay, thank you. Then I appoint Marshall Fulgram. Under Value Adjustment Board, the last year or two, we've taken the vice chair and the chair, and we've made them the two county commissioners that serve on the Value Adjustment Board. If the board wishes, then we will continue in that, and then it will be myself and Commissioner Harvey. Last year, it was Chairman Pickens and myself, but this year it would be myself and Commissioner Harvey. Also, the one citizen that owns Homestead that was on the Value Adjustment Board, Todd Dixon, do I reappoint him as chair, or do I recommend him and that be voted on by the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I think we usually vote on it as a
Okay.
board.
Well, I would ask that a motion be made that Todd Dixon be reappointed to the Value Adjustment Board.
I'll make that motion,
I'll
Chairman.
second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and motion carries unanimously. And then I'll go, Commissioner Rawls, do you have any appointments today, sir?
I do, David Parsons for District 2 on the Affordable Housing Committee. And Laura, can you tell me when the District 2 appointee for the fair, is it coming up at the end of this month as well? Okay, that's what I thought. Joel Danzler. And I asked him to reach out to you and get an application and fill it out. So if he's not, let me know and I'll.
Commissioner Rawls, have both of these people, are they already on those boards, or are they new?
No, and David's already filled out an application.
Okay.
And I've asked Joel to do it. He was
Okay.
supposed to reach out.
Well,
and
would
get it.
you please appoint him per the receipt of that application?
Yep. Fair? No, he's new appointee, yeah.
Whose place did he take, Commissioner Rawls?
Do not know. Just, looking for change.
Mr. Joel is part of my fishing fund. Is he okay to serve in both funds?
I didn't hear you, Julie. Would you say that again, please?
Yeah, Mr. Joel is a member of the fishing fund, and just want to make sure that we can serve on both of those boards.
Is he taking final action in that? If he's not, then he's
No,
okay on both.
This is an advisory.
I think it would be fine that he was on both, because I don't think the fishing fund would be considered an office, because they just basically review and make recommendations, where it's not like the Fair Board, which is probably, it was most assuredly an office.
Well, that's great. We just wanted to make sure he did too.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Rawls, is that the only other board? I know you
That's-
put, is that the only other board that Mr. Danzler's on? I thought he was on the planning commission.
He's on the planning board as well, yeah.
Well, he can't be on he can't hold two offices at one time, so he's gonna have to decide which one he wants to be on, the planning board
I'll
or
decide-
the Fair Board.
I'll decide that for him. Planning board, definitely on the planning board. He's a real
Okay,
good
well, then
asset.
you won't be able to appoint him to the
Okay.
Fair Board. That would be considered dual office.
Okay, I will, I'll get back with you. Hold off on that then.
Do you have any more, Commissioner, today?
Nope.
Okay.
That's it.
Commissioner Goddard, do you have any appointments today?
Yes, I want to reappoint John Chastain to the Fair Board.
Okay. You have any more? Is that your
No, sir.
district appointment?
Yes, sir.
He's not an at-large?
No, he's District 5.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Pickens?
I have none, but I want to make a comment. Jeff, I do have somebody in District 1 that's interested in serving on the Fair Board. If you don't find somebody, he's really qualified.
Can you shoot me his information?
Yeah, I will. And also, and Mr. Danzler will do a great job at whatever board you
Yeah.
put him on. He will do fantastic. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. That would be all for appointments today. And the Value Adjustment Board should be fixed now for the property appraiser. County Administrator Terry Suggs, do you have anything today, sir?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, thank you, Administrator Suggs. Attorney Rich Commando, do you have anything today, Colonel?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. By the way, you look good in the mask. You sure you ain't a bank robber in a previous life? I noticed the sheriff moved over there and sat behind you.
As long as he's sitting.
I hear you. Okay, under Commissioner comments today, I'd like to have an open discussion from the commissioners on how we want to handle youth sports programs for the summer. I'm gonna let Julie, I don't know if that microphone's working. Got to hold a button? Okay.
Told you can't hear me,
There you
so.
go.
Okay.
Well, I could hear you fine, but they can't hear you in the booth.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Would you please explain to us what you and I discussed about youth sports, please?
Yes, sir. The CDC has put out some guidelines on moving forward with youth sports. And so obviously the governor has given his blessing on moving forward. Like any other thing, there are some additional caveats that the CDC is recommending that we implement. So if the commission is ready to move forward with youth sports, allow tournaments to engage our fields, those types of things, the Parks and Recs Department would ask that you would allow us to work with those tournament organizers and ensure compliance and understanding of CDC guidelines. So some of those examples are reminding the kids not to shake or high five every kid when they hit a home run. Some of those are a little bit more involved in making sure that we don't host tournaments where teams from the 3 South Florida counties who haven't been released to move into phase 2 would be present, or teams from the 4 states that the governor has asked for a 14-day quarantine to be placed on when entering into Florida. So geographically, there would be some restrictions on who could participate in the tournaments, but largely then allow them to open up for everyone else. And go through with the tournament organizers or the coaches, general things like hygiene, not sharing water bottles, not sharing a water cooler, making sure every child has their own dedicated water or sports drinks or whatever they choose to drink. But emphasizing some of those hygiene items. We would ask coaches to have hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes and those types of things available for the tournament. And then, of course, there would be some additional cleaning of restrooms and that type of thing if we're talking tournaments. We are also prepared to open the pool up on a limited basis if the county so chooses. We have worked with the swim coach, and at this time do not see a viable way to host the summer swim team. We will continue conversations with him and us, and if we get to that point, then we could come back to you. But the number of kids he has participating and the number of hours it would take him to get through a practice with the limited number of kids that could be in the pool at any given time is just not conducive to our pool. We have a very small pool facility, so we couldn't put 20 kids in the pool at the same time. We could, though, in lieu of that time block utilization, open up some additional hours for lap swim. We have a good number of adult swimmers who during the summer like to get some exercise that way, and we traditionally only do it for a few hours in combination with the swim team. So we could open it up for some additional lap swim hours. Also, some additional CDC guidelines would be followed there. You could only have 2 swimmers in a lane at one time, and they would have to be synchronized. If they couldn't synchronize, then you could only have 1 swimmer in a lane at a time. And we would have to funnel people in and out. Lifeguards would have to take additional precautions, obviously. If they needed to save or rescue someone in the water, they would need to be trained on some additional CDC guidance on how that works. So the conversation before you today is just, we are ready to engage in those conversations with a lot of research and preparation on what is most recommended for other areas and engaging in youth sports and activities, recreational activities. And so that's where we are.
Okay, thank you. The main reason I wanted to bring this today is my recommendation would be to turn this process over to General Services and Parks and Recs and let them do this as they feel comfortable and at a stage they feel comfortable, which I think they're pretty close to comfortable already, and let them handle this. Does anybody have any problem with that at this point, Commissioner Pickens?
I don't have a problem with it. I just want the advisory committee, whatever role they would play in this, to be a part of these decisions. We have not met because of the COVID situation, but I assume we'll probably meet pretty soon. But I just want the, as chairman of that advisory board, for them to be involved in it.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, Commissioner Pickens. Could we make sure that possibly we have a meeting of that committee before we move forward, and in case they have any recommendations or what have you?
Of course, and we can offer them a Zoom meeting if the board is not comfortable meeting in person, or we can obviously host an in-person meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Harvey, did you have something, sir? These buttons aren't working today.
Oh, okay. No, actually, Commissioner Pickens asked the question I was going to answer, so thank you.
Okay. Y'all must be down there on like mine this morning.
Telepathy, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so are you clear now? We're going to take it to the Parks and Rec Committee and let them have their input. If you need to have a meeting, if some of the members feel uncomfortable attending, we can still Zoom. We're allowed to do it through July the 7th by the governor's order. And so we can Zoom that meeting. The Planning Commission tomorrow is being Zoomed, and the Solid Waste Advisory Committee on Thursday is being Zoomed. mainly because, on those two meetings, mainly because of the expense it would have taken to re-advertise those two meetings and the amount of communication that would have had to go out, is why we kept those. All other meetings that I'm aware of at this time are going to be live meetings as of this time.
So to be clear, you'd like the Recreation Advisory Board to meet and go through everything and then come back and report to the board at the next meeting?
I don't think so. My recommendation would be that you and that board decide the best way to move this forward, because I'm ready for it to move forward whenever the Parks and Recreation Department feels ready.
Okay.
I'm ready tomorrow morning.
Okay.
That's right.
But that's not the way that I think this should be handled. I think it should be handled, like we said, between you and Parks and Recreation, or at least the Parks and Recreation chairman at the very least, if not more.
No
Yeah,
problem.
and
The Parks chairman?
Yes, and I'll get with you after this
No
in
problem.
between meetings.
Okay. So if you can handle it in a way that that is satisfactory to that committee, that'd be wonderful.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other items to come before the board today?
Commissioner comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, thought we had them all.
It's been a rolling comment.
Okay. Commissioner Pickens, would you like to go first, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Turner. First, I want to reach out to Lisa Schwartz and thank her for taking for a tour of the animal control facility a couple of Fridays ago. Kind of opened my eyes up of what they have had to deal with over these years. And, but I appreciate that. And also, I spent about 45 minutes with Jay Tilton, our solid waste manager, and at the landfill, and that was an eye-opening experience also, and there's a lot of good things happening out there. And Jay, I just appreciate everything that you're doing. I would like to say thank you for everybody who attended today and had public comment on the issue of the Maltby Oak and the monument. It takes a lot of courage to come in here and voice your opinion, and I appreciate both sides. I appreciate what Ed Killebrew said, and maybe this is time to look at a compromise. But one thing this commissioner feels is we can't rush this and try to vote on this. I guess we can. You can put it on the agenda and we can vote if we have to, but I see no reason to move this forward that fast. I have no problem voting on these issues as a commissioner after I gain more information. I've talked to about 10 people, and I hope I talk to 100 more on both sides. We can't rush this. It would be an injustice to both sides. And it doesn't need to be two sides here. It needs to be our community, Putnam County. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the history of America. Commissioner Rawls, probably 8 of the 10 people I spoke to said the people of citizens of Putnam County should vote on this. I don't know if that's possible or not, but we need to look into that. But the bottom line is we need to talk about this, we need to listen, and we need to make a solid, best decision for Putnam County. And I want to thank each individual who came here and spoke about these issues. And the Maltby tree, we do understand. I felt that when we voted to spend more money on it, that if I was elected again, probably in the next 4 years, we'd probably have to make the decision whether to take it down or not, because it may be a hazard. So those are the things we have to think about. But anyway, again, thank you for your input, and I appreciate us being able to meet in this setting. It has been challenging with the Zoom meetings. It's just not the same being out here with staff, with my fellow commissioners, with the public, and you get that relationship. And I've missed it, and I'm glad we're moving towards back to a new normal. Thank you.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pickens, you said it well. I do want to thank staff for putting all the hard work in, getting this room ready for everyone today, and for us to be here, because I agree. Zoom meetings, I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of doing 3 and 4 Zoom meetings a day. You're exhausted at the end of the day. I'm a salesman. I have to read body language. I have to know what the facial expressions read. I can't see that on Zoom. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work, and I'm animated. And I didn't wear shoes one day and got caught by a group of people putting up telephone poles. So I like it better here, and I appreciate all the hard work. And Commissioner Pickens, you're exactly right. We don't need to rush this. I do want to thank everyone who stood up today. I have an opinion too, no doubt. I went to Palaca Central High School from the community of Francis. Talk about a culture shock. We had Palaca South, we had Palaca Central. But you know what? We learned to get together. We learned to be together. We learned to understand each other's values. And I take those experiences with me every day, probably like you do, Commissioner Rawls. And I learned from that. I have mixed feelings myself, and I appreciate the conversation when we can get up. But this commissioner is in no hurry to make this a decision that needs to be voted on right now. And Commissioner Turner, I like the idea of coming back in July when we can actually have a plan, we can sit down, and we can look at this as a community and start having that dialogue. Commissioners, y'all been getting bombarded from me about your emails. Some of y'all have blocked me, I think.
I have blocked you.
I'm not sure. Don't block me, because I can watch who does, okay? You've been getting letters from me. This coming Friday, there'll be an election for second vice president of the Florida Association of Counties, which puts me in line, if I'm successful, to be the president of the Association of Counties. 67 counties in Florida, 358 commissioners, give or take. So a big shot in the arm for Putnam County. I'm looking forward to that. Laura's going to help y'all today register, right? And she's also going to help you put your onboard app on your phone, because without that, you cannot vote this coming Friday. And if you want to come here and watch it and vote, I will provide some type of pastries. And I'm not asking for your vote that way. I'm just saying. I'm just providing things that we could do. But it would be, it's been a really great time running. Unfortunately, it's going to be the first time it's a virtual conference. And trust me, I had a commissioner from Gilchrist County tell me yesterday, I don't own a smartphone. How do I? And I'm like, well, I'll get another commissioner to help you. That's the best we can do. So, but I want to thank the board for allowing me that opportunity. Everything we do promotes Putnam County. And it was fun yesterday. I made 220 phone calls, and told them I was from Putnam County. And some of them actually, where's Jim? Is Jim in the room right now? No. They were a policeman from Alachua County as a commissioner in Broward County. So it's just kind of neat how we're not so isolated as we think we are. But commissioners, thank you very much. And community, thank you for coming today. Greatly appreciate all the hard work that y'all been doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Rawls.
I'll just echo what Commissioner Pickens and Harvey said. I think this should be a slow roll. I think getting on a ballot is going to be the best way forward. Let the public decide this. Honestly, a lot of issues are being tossed around right now, and the one thing that we really need to stay focused on at the same time is running of the county. Coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic is going to be interesting. There was a report put out by the Northeast Florida Regional Council that predicts 41,000 losses of jobs in Northeast Florida, which is really going to be devastating for Northeast Florida. So it's, one step forward, two steps backward conversation if we're not careful. We've got a budget coming up right now. We need to stay focused on that. We need to get our employees properly funded, our departments funded, our fire rescue service. We started a conversation. We need to continue that. Get that resolved. We had a strategic planning session in November. We've got the results from an employee survey that we've yet to discuss. We've got a strategic plan we've got to put in place. Our comprehensive plan is still got to be written. So, I hope that we continue moving forward in an expedient manner. I hope the public stays engaged. This is interesting how a tree or a monument can, ruffle so many feathers and get so much emotion stirred up, and yet we have other issues that we need to take on as a community as well. I personally feel like we need to look at alternative funding sources to be able to derive the revenue that we need to make this county move forward and operate and be able to fully fund our staff. We've only given one pay raise in 10 years, and it was a 6% pay raise to anybody making less than $20 an hour. So we've got a lot of work to do, So I really appreciate everybody's comments today, their time, and I'm really grateful for people taking their time to be prepared. And this has been a huge education. All the emails that Laura read, I've received, and I've replied back to everybody that sent me an email. And even one lady from Central Florida sent me an email. So it's really interesting to see the dynamics of how something like this works. And then you start getting opinions from different angles, and it really broadens your mind a little bit. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Rawls, Commissioner Goddard.
Well, as usual, I'm glad to see everybody here. I'm glad to see you speaking out on your views. I've had the opportunity to be out and around, and I've had countless phone calls on both sides of this issue, and it's kind of a neat thing to, you know, it's a tree that's been there forever, and it's a monument that's been there since I can remember. And now all of a sudden it's come about. But I stopped and I thought about, I left here. I not to get into it, but my father was very abusive. I had left home, lived with my aunt and my uncle up here on George's Lake, and they never had children. They also did not have running water or indoor plumbing or electricity. And they were quite happy. I was quite happy. I was enjoyable living there. I left here after they passed away, and I never wanted to come back. My wife, fortunately, we live in the house that my father-in-law built when my wife was born. So I've got to raise my kids here. But my wife just pushed and pushed and pushed for us to come back here. I didn't want to. But the best thing I did was to leave here to appreciate what we have here. And that's why when at the end of every meeting, I say, get out. Get out and see Putnam County. We honestly are so fortunate to live in this county. I've been out there. Commissioner Rawls has been out there. We've seen other countries. We're fortunate to live in this country. We're fortunate to live in this county. We aren't like the rest. We really, really aren't. I look at our fire department. Our fire department, they don't have hydrants. If we have a fire to put out, we have to go throw a hose out in the lake and pump it out here to put the fire out. We get along very well. I mean, it's not like there is a cultural change, and I'm sure there is. But I don't really see that cultural change, and I'm not going to get angry at a tree. I'm not going to get angry at a monument. I do think we need to take a good look at our past in order to know where we're going in our future. We need to put this thing off. I think it needs to be put onto the workshop and discussed because it's an important issue. On both sides. But unfortunately, I don't think either way you go, you're going to have some people upset. Doesn't matter. So we need to make the best decision we can. But I'm going to regress real quick. And I've shared this with other people. My son, who was very close to me, my son died in a Camaro. Okay, he's a young man. He unfortunately died. I could be angry at that Camaro, but the Camaro is not the problem. I've turned my sorrow, if you would, towards telling people how important it is to wear a seatbelt. Okay, if my son had been wearing a seatbelt, he probably would have survived. He died because the airbag hit him under the neck and it broke his neck. So I cannot change the fact that that Camaro was there, or I can't even get angry because the car did not cause the problem. My son did not have his seatbelt on. The car was built to save his life. He just didn't use the correct equipment. So what I do is I push everybody to wear a seatbelt. If you're in that automobile, wear a seatbelt. You know, think about what you're doing. It's not the car that caused the problem, it was the fact he didn't have his seatbelt on. Now, so I can push for future and save lives, and the same thing that we can do with our future here. Those men died honoring their county. Actually, it was their county. It had nothing to do with the slavery. They were fighting to defend their county, their livelihood, if you would. And they need to be honored. They need to be honored. And I think what we need to do is this stuff has to go before the workshop, be discussed. There's a whole lot of options of what we can and can't do, but we need to be very careful how we handle this. Taking down the monument, taking down the trees, not going to change anything in the history in the past. Not going to change anything. As a matter of fact, something else is going to come up and we'll have to deal with it then. All I can say is, get out here, see what you've got here. Putnam County is just gorgeous from one end to the other. Our people are gorgeous. We need to get out here and enjoy what we've got here. Thanks.
Thank you for those touching comments, Commissioner Goddard. Jacob, can we get some more wind guards for some of these microphones, please, where it doesn't click when he tries to talk into it, please? Thank you. Under the last comment that I'd like to make is I know there's going to be many different opinions on this when it comes to workshop. I'm going to hold most of my comments until that workshop. But I think there are some different compromises, and one I'd like for somebody to start thinking about between now and that workshop in July is that we have a true American hero from Putnam County, a true American hero. His name is Robert Jenkins. We named the school after him. We named the post office after him. In my opinion, I think that we need to start raising money to erect another statue at the courthouse of a true American hero from Putnam County who gave his life for his platoon. There's nobody that can't say this young man wasn't a hero from our community. So I'm willing to put in the first money to start the fund, if that's what y'all want to do, to start raising the money to erect the statue for Mr. Jenkins. I'm willing to put in the first money out of my pocket. So if y'all decide to go that route and you want to, if you'd contact me, I'll get a check to you. I think that would be a very good compromise also among other compromises is to go that route. So if there's no further comments today at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned.
Good